Hi, so I'm going to be continuing on then, looking at the cross-cultural taboos, looking at items from our taxonomy of taboo words. Now we're looking at faunality, and these are, of course, taboo words that are derived from terms from animals. And we're going to be concentrating on dangerous animals. This is a taboo that was very common historically among the European languages. So, for example, if we look at English, the word for bear originally meant brown one. So if we look at the word bear, we can derive it and we see that it originally meant brown one, which means that it was a euphemism to avoid saying whatever was the word for bear at that time, because that word was taboo. And so it had to be avoided. And so we would use this euphemism, a circumlocution, to talk about the bear, to talk around it, right? And so we eventually just lost whatever that word was, right? It was so taboo at some point that it just got lost altogether. And so we were left with bear, which started as a euphemism and then became an orthophonism. Similarly, in Ukrainian and other Slavic languages, and even non-Slavic languages like Hungarian as well, we find that it's very common that you'll use the euphemism honey eater. So in Hungarian, the word for bear today is medved, but it originally meant honey eater. And so that was another common one, and again, the original word in Ukrainian is lost to time. We have no idea what it was. It was too taboo over time, and we lost it. But today, both bear and medved just simply mean bear. They're orthophonisms today, to a degree. Now, I should point out that I'm basing this off of research that was done more than 50 years ago on Ukrainian. And so I can't guarantee how accurate this is of contemporary Ukrainian. But I want to use it because I think it's still relevant to today. It's illustrative of how this works. And it was the only article I could find that really looked at taboos on faunality systematically. And so what they showed was that this word medved, which I just said was an orthophonism of sorts, well, it's taken yet another cycle in that euphemism treadmill, so that now it's somewhat of a dysphemism, or at least in the 1950s, actually not necessarily now, but there are so many euphemisms that we can see people trying to avoid it. So vedmin, where you just simply rearrange some of the sounds, bermuda, grumbler, butch, growler, and forgive my pronunciation, I know I'm massacring the language as usual. Vuiko, uncle, tot, that one, tot stari, that old one, tot virki, that big one, vin, he, executor, bailiff, or tax collector. I love that one. The bear is the tax collector, the bailiff. But the question, obviously, is, well, why is it taboo? And so this article tries to address that and tries to explain it. And there's this nice proverb in Ukrainian. One speaks of the wolf and it runs into the house. So that's the idea. It's a sort of word magic. It's this idea that if you were to say the name of this dangerous animal, it's inviting it into your life. It's inviting it to come to you. So it's superstition, right? Now, I don't want to say that in a condescending way. That sounds condescending to say, oh, it's just a superstition. Because superstitions are powerful, and all of us, I think, are prone to them. So, I mean, I know I am. This idea that words have power. So if there's something that I really want to happen, right? So let's say that I really want to take a trip, but I'm not sure that I'm going to be able to get the time off, or that my wife's going to be able to get the time off, but I really want to be able to go. And my wife says something like, oh, we'll be able to go. I get nervous as soon as she says that, right? Because the future is uncertain. And when I really want something and somebody says that it's going to happen, I start getting nervous and think that we're inviting the evil eye to come and cancel it all out. And so if my wife says that, oh, it'll happen, oh, we'll be able to go, I get nervous and I have to knock on wood. Right? I know it's a superstition. I know rationally in my mind that there's no reason to do that, but I can't help myself. And so I think that's the idea of word magic. In this case with the taboos on the names of the animals, that I'm not saying that these people necessarily rationally think that by saying wolf that you're inviting it into your house, but there's still this kind of lingering feeling, this superstition, that by calling out that name or just saying that name, it's the same as calling the wolf to you. Here's a couple examples that Small Stokey gives. These are quotes from his article. An old woman told me that Pesky, little dog, used to be the most proper name to use because if wolves were called by their real names, they would multiply rapidly and soon become a danger to peasants and their cattle. So again, a different sort of superstition that by saying the name that it's somehow going to make it propagate and reproduce. Another example, an old man once said to me, "Don't use the word," and here he meant hagina, serpent. And then I found this was interesting. "May it," and he spat it out, "not often appear." So he literally had to spit because it was so repellent to him. Just the thought of it. He doesn't even actually say the word, but he has to still spit to get that idea of it on his tongue out of him. Right? That is the idea of word magic, that it's so powerful that just the thought of it and just that it's there on the tip of your tongue means you have to spit it out. And he hopes that it doesn't appear. Right? So the Ukrainian data, like I said, comes from a long, long time ago, 1950, taboos on animal names in Ukrainian. Like I say, I'm not sure how relevant it is today, but I still think it's useful because it shows how this works into a system of taboos.